What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all doing wonderful today. It's about that time of the month again where I give an update on this portfolio, show you how it's performed over the past month, and share all of the dividend income that it's earned over the past month. And if you are new, essentially what I like to do every single month is give an update of this portfolio. My goal is to give you complete transparency into what it's like to actually invest in the stock market, ranging from high dividend yielding companies all the way to companies that don't even pay a dividend. So a pretty solid mix across the board, but ultimately I hope that this can inspire you to start your own investing journey if you haven't already. I think over the past few years there's been a really big trend on social media about earning passive income, doing all these different types of things to try and generate a little income on the side. And while some of those can work, I truly feel that investing is one of the best and easiest ways to generate some of that passive income and ultimately lead you to financial freedom. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a long journey. You're going to have your ups and downs, but if you stick with it, you can definitely achieve that financial freedom. All right, so hopping into the portfolio here, the current value is about $40,100. That's about $3,800 in dividends earned. And then from a market gain perspective, this is going to include both those capital gains and dividends. That's about $12,000. And from a money weighted rate of return, that's going to put us at about 88%. And just for some perspective, I started investing back at the start of 2020, kind of around the COVID pandemic. So the portfolio is about 5 years old at this point and certainly seen its ups and downs, but we just keep going. So now zooming in to the last month or so, it's actually been pretty good. We did start out with a slight dip in early April, but then it spiked up pretty heavily and then it maintained. We had a little dip in mid to late April, but then it shot back up again, and that's where we are today. So overall in the last month, our market gain was just shy of $3,500 and just over an 8% money weighted rate of return. And just taking a peek at some of the sectors here. So if you are newer to M1 Finance, they have these things called pies, which is essentially just kind of a way for you to group your individual holdings. For me personally, I set mine up into different sectors just to help me diversify a little bit better. Like as you can see here, I have the ETF pie. So I have a few ETFs in here, my technology pie, put all my Apples, Microsoft, Broadcom's in there, consumer has my Home Depot, McDonald's. I think you get the picture, but that's essentially how I like to set this up and kind of one reason I started with M1 Finance in the first place. So if you're not used to this platform, this is essentially what it looks like. Now, most notably here, technology did the best over the past month. Most stuff was in the green, but technology was up about 18%. So if we click into here and just check out some of the holdings, we can see that Broadcom had a monster month, up 37%. And this is really impactful, not only for the technology pie here, but really for the entire portfolio because I have a lot of weight in this holding. So if that makes a massive jump or decline, it's going to have a pretty big impact overall. Whereas something like Tesla, I don't own a lot of it, so it's not going to have as big of an impact. But overall, that was pretty huge for the month. Microsoft made a pretty big jump as well, over 21%. So technology did quite well. Most other stuff I would say is pretty average, kind of in that 5 to 9% range. The worst performing one was the energy pie. And so in here I have Enterprise Product Partners, sort of a midstream oil and gas company, but they were down 1%. Again, they have a lot of weight, so more impact from that perspective. But to balance that out a little bit, we had a nice 3% gain from DTE Energy. But overall in the month, we're down just a little bit in the energy sector, but not too impactful overall. So that's where the portfolio sits. Now let's hop into the dividends and see what we actually earned this month. All right, so we started the month out with a $1.04 dividend from Nike. Now Nike historically has been more of a high growth company that tends to pay out a lower dividend yield. So that's one thing. Also, I don't really have a ton of Nike to begin with. I do really like the company. I think from a sportswear perspective, they're one of the most iconic, most well-known. I might pick more of this up in the future, but they were our first payment of the month. Next is Coca-Cola. Not too much interesting stuff here, pretty slow and steady growth. You're not going to see too many massive swings in Coca-Cola. There's not too many new things that they can really bring to the market, but they paid $4.15. Genuine Parts Company is next, and they paid $8.29. Vici Properties, this is a real estate company that invests in a lot of gaming properties, primarily casinos. I know they own a lot of buildings on the Las Vegas Strip. And really, I have this one just to diversify my real estate investments a little bit from your more typical commercial real estate. But they paid $10.54. And speaking of traditional real estate, we have Realty Income Corp. And if you guys don't already know, this is a monthly paying company, but they paid out $6.39. Then we actually move into another real estate company, but these guys focus more on those industrial properties. This is Stag Industrial, and just like Realty Income, these guys pay monthly. So this month they paid $2.68. Then $3.11 comes from an energy company out of Detroit. This is DTE Energy, and most utility companies are going to be slow and steady growth as well, but pretty stable overall, I would say. Next is an ETF. This is SPHD, and these guys focus on higher dividend yielding companies on the S&P 500 that they deem to be a little bit less volatile. And this ETF pays out monthly as well. So this month they paid out $7.06. Then we move into Cisco Corporation. This is the food distribution company, not the technology company, but they paid $4.40. And then to round everything off for the month, we got $7.77 from one of the world's largest banks. This is JP Morgan. And so when we add all the dividend income up for this month, the total comes to $55.43. So not too bad overall. I think some companies that normally pay out in this month ended up paying out last month, which is why that is a little higher than normal. Compared to this time last year, we were at $59, and so that actually went down just a little bit. But like I said, I think some of those companies paid out last month as opposed to this month from a dividend perspective. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. And one thing I did want to show you guys here, and this is something I do every video, it doesn't fluctuate too much right now, but what I like to do is take my most recent 3 months of dividend payments and kind of break it down into different time frames. So here I have the yearly income just from dividends. That's just over $1,000. And this is essentially all income that you're earning while you're sleeping. So completely passive, but just kind of cool to see these different time frames. Like every day, $2.80. I will admit it's nothing monumental, but everybody has to start somewhere on their investing journey. So you may have a lot more right now, you may have a lot less, but a lot of this can help gauge where you are. For me personally, this helps keep me disciplined, because if I'm at the store shopping and I see something maybe for a few dollars that I know I probably don't really need, and I know it may be weird to some of you, but I like to think back to this portfolio and say, all right, listen, I'm making $2.80 every single day. If I buy that drink, that candy bar, or whatever it is, realistically, that's $40,000 of future value. And I get it. It may not be the most realistic thing to think about, but when it comes to finance, you're always thinking about present value and extrapolating stuff out to future values or vice versa. So just something I like to do. But anyway, that is going to wrap up the video. Thank you all so much for taking the time to check it out. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you want more content from me, you can also hit that subscribe button if you want. And with that said, take it easy, and I'll catch you in the next one.